So in this video, I'm going to be going through just the basics of how to construct buildings that look three-dimensional using one-point perspective. As you can see, when I started, the first thing I need to do is to establish the horizon line followed by a vanishing point, which is simply a dot on that line. I then construct a triangle which cuts through the horizon line, and then the diagonal lines go to that one-point perspective mark. If I was using perspective when drawing, and you'll see in my later video that's exactly what I do, I wouldn't normally either press so hard or take the construction lines out of my drawing. But for the purpose of clarity, I've done that in this demonstration. So once I've completed the triangle, which is the side of the building, I then add a square or rectangle to establish the front of the building. So once I've rubbed out the construction lines, you can see that I've established a fairly simple but convincing shape that looks like a building in space. And in this exercise, all I now do is add more buildings. There are a few pitfalls that people often fall into, such as the angles of doors and windows. And as we go through the video, I'm going to show you what to look out for and what to avoid. So I'm now adding a second building, and this time I'm leaving gaps where I don't want to rub out the construction lines. And you'll see that the first of the issues there is sometimes you get lines which are not even. It's important when doing the vertical lines that you stick to the vertical and not simply just try to join the uneven lines up, otherwise your building will look like it's falling over. Another key thing that people often get wrong, and you'll see I do to a certain extent in some of these things, is where the verticals, that means the lines that are going up and down, are slightly wonky, and that makes things like windows look like they're falling out or the doors are leaning and so on. And you can see that I make those errors in the video, and I show and point out where I've tried to correct those. So at this point I'm going to put the first set of windows in on the first building, and all I do for the top part of the window is join up the top line and make sure that my ruler intersects the vanishing point. I then move the ruler downwards and draw another line, and this is established the top and bottom line going back into space of the window. And just a reminder again that the importance of having those vertical lines vertical, because if I get it wrong, it will look like the window is falling out of the building. Another key thing that people get wrong, particularly doorways, where the two sides of the door vertical are different lengths and they're simply joined up, and it makes the door look incorrect. The key thing is to make sure that the lines, top and bottom, go to the vanishing point. So now I'm just going to add a few other features, could be posters, could be windows, and so on, just to establish some very simple basic building items such as windows, doorways, and so on. And it's at this point, if you get it right and you're confident with what you're doing, is where you can have quite a bit of fun developing your own building scapes and townscapes and so on. And in the next part of the video, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a little bit more free with my perspective, adding several other vanishing points, and then just going through stages to see how I can get something which is perspective crazy, to be quite honest with you. But you'll see what I mean, and hopefully you'll like the next stage. So that's pretty much it for this stage. So if you feel like you've seen enough and you want to go off and practice and try some things, you can stop the video at this stage. And then if later on you're interested in what else I'm going to do, you can come back to it or watch it separately. So for the next stage, I'm going to, after this short introduction, stop talking and just let the video run through. It will be at double speed so you can see, and time-lapsed, so you can see the stages at which I go through to pretty much experiment. The main thing to try and catch when I'm doing this is that I'm using multiple perspective points and I'm using them as a guide rather than the master. So it's really important to practice what you're doing, to get a handle on it, get an idea of what you're doing, and then to use it. I'll come back to you towards the end of the video with a couple of other tips, and hopefully you enjoy what you see. One final point before I finally stop talking is that you'll notice that I've got a little thumbnail sketch in the corner where I've just planned a little bit about to give myself a little idea about what it is I intend to try and achieve. So once again, hopefully you get a lot out of the video, and I'll come back to you towards the end with a couple of other tips. So fairly well established the image now. If I was working on this professionally, this would be a rough. This would be a trial to see where I'm going with it and what I need to change. You'll see in the later still that I've made some changes to certain areas of the scene. Now, if you want to get good at this sort of thing, then there's no substitute for going out and drawing real buildings or cityscapes, landscapes. Be observant, try things out, become a scholar of architecture as well, different styles and different time periods. I hope you get the connection between some of the online video games or the role-playing games that you see, like The Witcher or Thief and so on and so forth. I think those cityscapes are fantastic, and the artists who do them are really, really gifted. So it's based on those sorts of ideas. But as I said, if if you want to get good at this, you've got to go out and practice. And one of the fundamental skills and understandings that you need is this knowledge and application of perspective. So hopefully this was good for you guys to get some inspiration. Go out and practice. It's a skill which is very much in demand with the growth of online video games and lots of other things within the graphics world. So thanks very much, and see you guys next time.